Premier Heating and Air is now offering free home energy audits. Call Premier Heating and Air now at 478-300-2633 for your free home energy audit. Premier's professional technicians will inspect your vents and duct system for cleanliness, inspect your attic insulation, check your indoor air quality, evaluate moisture barriers, and more. Log on to dublin.premierishere.com or call 478-300-2633 and experience a Premier difference today. Premier Heating and Air, a locally owned and operated company. Offer ends 2/29/24.
If you don't know, this is Liz Green. She does the marketing for the hospital, and she's helped organize this for our wellness program today. So I'm just going to pass it over.
My name is Liz Green. I know a lot of you in here, but I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications for the hospital, and we are so happy to be here today and to partner with the city to offer health education free to y'all's employees, and we're glad to be that resource for you. You see, our motto is, above all else, we are committed to the care and improvement of human life, and we truly try to stick to that culture and to treat all patients fairly and to show compassionate care in everything we do. Just to give you a little bit of background, I'm not going to do a huge spiel, but we're happy to be the regional referral hospital within our 11 kind of county area. So we see a lot of people from a lot of different communities, and we are pleased to care for everyone that comes our way. But today, February is Heart Month, and obviously that's a very special month for us, and definitely a month that we try to focus education for the community for heart issues, heart health. And so without further ado, I'm going to just pass it over to Dr. Haithcock, let him introduce himself. He'll do his talk, and then we also have Kelly Cook, who is here with our cardiac rehab program, and Mr. Rob Ward, who's over cardiology and respiratory at the hospital. So, Dr. Haithcock.
Hi, y'all. So my name is Daniel Haithcock, and I am one of the cardiologists over at Fairview. And yes, I really, really love our mission statement and our core value, which is that above all else, we are committed to the care and improvement of human life. A little bit about me. I'm from Detroit, was raised in Richmond. Yes, I'm a Lions fan. It is what it is. And I went to undergrad at University of Virginia, and I did my med school at Case Western Cleveland Clinic, and I did my cardiology and electrophysiology fellowship at Duke University. So my two specialties are cardiovascular disease, which is the work of the heart, and within that I'm a subspecialist in something called electrophysiology. And that has to do with heart rhythm work, pacemakers, and some specialty items within the broad umbrella of cardiology. But I'm really pleased to be here today because I love talking to folks about the heart, because this is something I like to do. I didn't know it was Casual Friday. I work in pajamas, so don't let the suit fool you. And by all means, if I say something and you have a question that just jumps out, this is your time. I'm here as a resource for you. I will have questions and answers after the talk as well, but if you're just burning to say something, speak up. It's all good. So some things about the heart. In my opinion, the heart is the most important organ, but we all have our perspective. It's located inside the chest. It's protected by the rib cage. It is not shaped like a Valentine. The heart, I always tell people that the heart is like a house. And like a house, it has a foundation. The foundation of the house is the muscle of the house, of the heart. And like a house, the heart has 4 rooms. Those rooms are called chambers. And the top 2 chambers are called the atrium, which are actually Latin for attic. The bottom 2 chambers are called the ventricle. And the atrium and the ventricle and the main plumbing of the house are separated these rooms are separated by doors that we call heart valves. And just like here in middle Georgia, where it gets hot, and if our doors are not perfectly sealed, our air conditioner has to work harder. The same thing happens if those heart valves aren't working. The heart has to work harder. When doctors listen to your heart with stethoscopes, we're listening to those doors, the valves open and close. And when there's a lot of turbulence, it's just like wind going through the door, and you can hear it backwards and forwards. That's called a heart murmur. In general, the arteries of the body carry blood with oxygen away from the heart, and the veins carry blood back to the heart to get more oxygen. Some facts about heart disease. Cardiovascular disease happens in women a little bit later in life than men, usually about 7 to 10 years later. But it's still a leading cause of death in women. As a matter of fact, we as a cardiology community not only dedicate February to Heart Month, but many of us, and I don't have my pin because it's on my scrubs, we wear a little pin in the shape of a dress, and it's the red dress for women because of this increased understanding of the profound nature of heart disease in women. And the risk of heart disease is usually underestimated because, it's this idea that women, because of hormonal changes, are protected from heart disease, and that's not the case. It's just that the heart disease catches up to them at a later age. Risk factors for, jump in.
Why is that? Why
Sure.
is it that women are more susceptible? What's the makeup or the chemistry behind that? if you
So why are women and men different?
Well, no.
When you and I see God, one of us can ask. But in the meantime, I'll tell you what we know. Okay? And what we know is this. We know that circulating estrogen-progesterone balance has a cardioprotective effect. However, we also know that as that balance changes with age, that effect goes away. So whereas in men who do not have that hormonal protection, we see heart disease much earlier in the 50s and 60s. In women, we see it in the 60s and 70s.
So that means when you hit menopause, you should worry about your heart more?
You should always worry about your heart. Enjoy your sandwich. And to answer your question, yes and yes, and this is what I mean. You want to be aware of your cardiovascular disease. You want to be aware. You can have your sandwich. Don't put it down. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to be rude. Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's all good. So you want to be aware of your risk factors, and we'll get into that. But you want to be aware of what your blood pressure is. You want to be aware of what your weight is. More importantly than your weight, how far can you and how long can you do aerobic activity before you have to stop? You know, we're all focused on what that scale says, but what does the treadmill say? We have one of our experts from cardiac rehab that can testify to the fact that we can have the fanciest medical care in the world, but if you don't put that body to work, you lose it. You want to be aware of what your cholesterol is. You want to be aware of what your family history is. So to answer your question, and it's a profound question, you should be, quote, worried about your heart, not to the point of anxiety, but to the point of awareness, so that as you age gracefully. You don't meet too many 90-year-old people that are not active. All right. So risk factors, and these are all great questions. I'm glad y'all jumped in. Increasing age, we talked about gender, hereditary. we didn't just get our good looks from mom and dad, we also got genes. And we're starting to evolve our understanding of genes with regards to heart risk, specifically with cholesterol. There are certain people that have what's called a familial hypercholesterolemia, which means that I can give them all the ordinary medicine I want to lower the cholesterol. It's like giving a whale a Tic Tac. You have to use something stronger because of a gene that they carry. And as we become more sophisticated in our understanding of genes and what they do, we'll be more tailored. The docs 20 years from now will look at what we do and say that we were practicing in the dark ages of medicine. Smoking. If you have a loved one or you yourself smoke, do yourself a favor and quit. And there's no such thing as it being too late. To quote, the damage is done. If more than any medicine, any procedure, any pill, if you know somebody who smokes or you yourself smokes, get help and stop. Before many years ago, I used to say that with, I don't think, enough understanding, and I got too fat and had to lose a lot of weight. And when I did, I realized that I had gotten addicted to food. And, you know, I grew up in a Bible family. That spare the rod thing, she had that underlined. And so we didn't drink, we didn't smoke, you know, we didn't do a lot of, quote, bad things. I didn't have a lot of bad habits. But when I figured out that I was addicted to fast food, my wife threatened to hurt me because I was ill. And I realized that the headaches, the moodiness, this is just a small fraction of what I'm telling my patients to do when they start smoking, when we know that tobacco, nicotine, was created in a lab to hook us. That's what it's there for. And so it's not a light comment to say stop smoking. You will often need help, and there's nothing wrong with getting help. There's help at Fairview Park Hospital. There's help at your local doctor's office. But if you don't remember anything that I said, if you see somebody that you know and love, even if that person is in the mirror, get them to stop smoking. Sorry, that's not R2D2, that's my phone. I am a Star Wars fan. I apologize. So, high blood cholesterol, we talked about that. Just to remind yourselves, remember we used the analogy of a house and that the heart is like a house. The blood vessels are the plumbing. We're all born with 3 blood vessels that supply the foundation of the heart, 3 major pipes. Those are called the coronary arteries. What builds up to clog up those pipes is made from cholesterol. Those are the cholesterol plaques. When cholesterol gets high, that's when we have to get aggressive about diet changes and medicines. There's a form of cholesterol that gets better and can be protective with exercise. Physical inactivity and obesity, we can't understate enough what's going on. No matter how, everything okay?
Oh, it went far.
Oh.
You can keep talking.
Oh, okay. No matter how, neat. No matter how advanced our medical society is with all of the technology that we have, there's still, quote, third world countries that outlive us. And the reason that they outlive us is because of the simplicity of their diet and the complexity of ours. It's our diet, y'all. And so, and if you just think about like what young people are eating now compared to what young people ate years ago, you can start to understand the longevity trends that we're seeing. Thank you very much for doing that. So that's the physical inactivity and obesity part. Diabetes is a big issue because we always think about diabetes as just the glucose, the sugar, but diabetes actually affects the blood vessels too. It makes you prone to having heart disease, prone to having blockages, prone to having problems with your kidneys. So these are all important things to remember. So if you are a diabetic, another number in that list of things to know is something called the hemoglobin A1C. And all that means is how well your diabetes is controlled. Stress. Well, good luck living without stress. But, you know, there was a beautiful paper that was written by a group out of Minnesota. And what they did was they took people who had elevated heart rate and heart rate problems, and they randomized them to medications versus yoga, and the results were equivalent, meaning that if one truly understands the mind-body interaction, you can have very positive effects on your health. Alcohol, it turns out that when we do alcohol beyond moderation, it can be harmful. In the 1980s, there was a paper published that said, well, if you drink 1 or 2 red glasses of wine, you'll be okay. To quote our former president, that's fake news. That study happened one time, and we've never been able to replicate it. It was a French study, and the French can't replicate it. We can't replicate it anywhere in the world, and it did more damage getting publicized than anything else. You wonder if the alcohol people wrote that paper. And then diet and nutrition, we talked about that.
Since 1916, Gravely has been designed, engineered, and made right here in the USA. Whether you prefer gas or electric, every Gravely has been forged with the commercial landscaper in mind. So they're not only built to last, but to also keep you riding comfortably from dawn to dusk. So ask yourself, are you ready to graduate to a Gravely? Visit your local Gravely dealer today.
Hey, I'm TJ with Dublin Outdoors and Power Sports, formerly known as Myers Equipment Supply. We're your full-line dealer for Gravely lawnmower sales and service.
Imagine a life-changing injury. Imagine the fear and unknown. The Houston Clinic Sports Medicine Team, the only physicians in the area with advanced certification in orthopedic sports medicine, treats sports injuries with innovative techniques. The Houston Clinic has helped nearly 1 million athletes live without pain. Imagine getting back in the game. Imagine the best game of your life. The Houston Clinic Sports Medicine Team.
All right, so heart disease, what's common? What can happen? So if we go back to our analogy of the house and plumbing, if the pipes get stopped up, that is called coronary artery disease. If the pipes get stopped up immediately or quickly and there is no water to the foundation or blood to the heart, that is the definition of a heart attack. If the foundation is weak, that is congestive heart failure, a weak heart. If those doors are leaking, that is heart valve disease. Now, just like sometimes houses are built a little differently, hearts can be built a little differently. There is a lot of congenital heart disease. Years ago, there was a groundbreaking doctor in Savannah who specialized in a certain type of congenital heart disease, and some of his patients are adults in our community. And so, whereas I don't see children, we do see more and more adults who are survivors of congenital heart disease surgeries. And then heart muscle disease is it's another form of heart failure, meaning that different things can happen to that foundation of the heart that make it a little less efficient. What will happen if what tests can be done with regards to diagnostics? There's one that's missing called history. And if you ever hear me teach medical students or residents or young fellows or doctors, I always tell them that the worst thing you can ever do is not listen to somebody. That's the worst thing you could do. If they don't get something right, I'll forgive them on that. But let me catch them ignoring somebody or not listening to somebody or missing what someone was saying. In that case, that's as they say politically now, that is grounds for re-education. My mama would say it differently. So the physical exam is when we listen to the heart with our stethoscope. We check the pulse. We feel what the pulse feels like against our fingers. We check the legs, the ankles to make sure there's no swelling. We listen to the lungs. We check the nervous system. You can get blood work like cholesterol and other blood work to check the heart. X-rays, EKGs, and EKG is when you put a sticker on the heart and you record its electrical activity. We've been doing EKG since the 1500s. The technology hasn't changed. Echocardiography is where you use an ultrasound to take pictures of the heart. Many of you have probably been around pregnant women where they get an ultrasound and you can see the baby, and now the ultrasound is so detailed that you cannot even see the baby's face. Well, those same high-resolution ultrasound features can be applied to the heart. Exercise stress test is when you walk on a treadmill or you ride a bike, you do something to get your heart rate up, and we look at that EKG to see how that current changes as it goes through. Cardiac catheterization is where we look at the plumbing of the heart. Typically we use a form of dye and we look at the pipes of the house to see what's going on. An MRI is when we take an up close and personal look at the heart, and that's an image that is reflected and made based on a magnet. So symptoms, this is important. Shortness of breath, buildup of fluid, looking down at someone's ankles. If you see mom's ankles are getting swollen, ask her how she's feeling. Fatigue, lack of appetite, nausea, confusion, and increased heart rate. Years ago, and the way that we missed the whole phenomenon of heart disease in women is that we used to use the Fred Sanford approach to heart attack, which is that you feel the chest pain, and it's the chest pain that radiates to the neck and goes down the left arm. Well, women don't typically get that. They may just say, "Doc, I'm tired." And we don't have an answer for why that is. But we've seen it, and it's been observed in lots of different situations. Confusion. That just isn't as sharp as it used to be. The brain is one of the main recipients of blood flow from the heart. Increased heart rate. These days we all have smart watches, and I get calls all the time about, well, my smartwatch says this and that, and I don't discount that information. Data is data, and we just have to deal with it. The classic symptom of a heart attack is chest pain. And still, if you do retrospective analysis, you'll see that over half, maybe about 60% of people actually do have chest pain. Sometimes discomfort, it doesn't just have to be in the left arm, it could be in the right arm. Shortness of breath, nausea, just breaking out in a cold sweat. Lightheadedness. "Doc, I'm dizzy. I just don't feel right." So 1 year after their heart attack, women are more likely than men to have poorer physical functioning, poorer mental functioning, lower quality of life, more chest pain, and worse physical limitations. And that typically happens because, well, I'll tell you why it happens. It happens because the symptoms of heart attack in women can be so sinister that it's often not caught early. And when things are not caught early, you see more long-term damage. That's why it's important to pay attention to your symptoms. I remember once I told a patient who, she had something happen to her, and I've been seeing her husband for a while, and she used to just come to the appointment and just sit there. And I looked at her one day and I said, "Lady, you tell more to your beautician about your health than you do your doctor. So what do I need to do to be your beautician?" Life after a heart attack is not all gloom and doom. With medical advances, people are living longer than they ever have in human history with heart disease. There is more that we can do than we've ever been able to do. It's important that we take our medications as prescribed, that we go see the doctor, that we participate in cardiac rehab, that we get support, and that we continuously manage our risk factors. You all, I appreciate your time very, very much, and thank you for your early questions. Do you all have any more questions, or would any of my colleagues from Fairview like to address the group?
Yeah. Well, did they have any questions first for you? Or
I did have a question on this screen where they were doing showing the diagnostic testing thing. I know a lot of those, if you go have certain surgeries, like I had neck surgery, I had to do a lot of those.
Yeah, why
So
is
is
that?
that just trying to check to see what kind of state your heart is in
So-
for surgery?
Yes, and I'll answer it in a different way. It turns out that we call one of the diagnostic tests for heart disease a stress test, because when you put the heart under physiologic or physical stress, you can unroof or uncover heart disease. Surgery can be a physical stress on the heart, especially surgery that includes anesthesia. And so there are lots and lots of very complex algorithms where we look very carefully at the extent of the surgery and also the person being operated upon to be sure that we have a good match for a safe surgery and a safe heart to be able to withstand whatever's being done. But that is why those tests are done in that situation. It's called a preoperative clearance.
So would there be any reason, like, some testing you do every 2 years, bone
Mhm.
density, whatever, is there any kind of protocol where you would maybe do a stress test?
It's a great question. So we've evolved. When I was first learning medicine in the 80s and 90s, it used to be commonplace that every year patients get stress tests. But what we found out is that, remember I told you the most important thing to do is listen to a patient? A careful history and physical can sometimes trump, forgive the pun, inappropriate testing. So you can get a stress test every year. You may miss heart valve disease if you don't listen to someone very carefully. So because of that, our societies like the American Heart Association and American College of Cardiology no longer mandate annual testing. What they do mandate is annual follow-ups and appropriate testing. It's a great question. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I check my blood pressure every morning.
Good for you.
Religiously. When I lay down, of course, it's right beside the bed, so I check it immediately when I wake up.
Yes, sir.
It's always low, and then when I get up and sit on the side of the bed, it's higher.
That's correct.
Why is that?
Certainly. So the reason why that is because, and that's normal physiology, that's not a disease state. Human beings are wired to be able to relax, which means that when you're sleeping, if I were to monitor your heart rate and blood pressure, it would be at the lowest that it is all day. But when you're moving around, the blood pressure is higher to meet the demands of the heart. Specifically, when you go from a seated or laying position to an upright position, there is a complex series of steps that occur between the brain and the heart, involving the heart rate and the blood pressure, to be sure the brain gets enough blood flow, which is why many of our older adults, if they stand up too quickly, get lightheaded. The same phenomenon can happen if someone's on too much blood pressure medication. So your observation is true, that in different positions the blood pressure will change. It is supposed to. Okay.
I've got a question that
Yes, ma'am.
it caused me to think. We did a testimonial at the hospital
Mhm.
a couple weeks ago, and it was with one of our EMS partners. That was great. And he actually did not know that he needed bypass surgery.
Mhm.
He was not overweight,
Yes.
had none of those risk factors,
Yes, ma'am.
but had headaches.
Yes.
And so he ended up going to his doctor because his wife forced him to.
Good.
Let's say, and found out he had to have bypass. Surgery.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's say if you're somebody who might not have those risk factors, but might have the hereditary side, is there a point that you should go check before you have those symptoms? Because I know a lot of times if you call the doctor, they're like, well, where's your referral? And you're like, I don't have a referral, I just have a bad family history. What is that?
So this is where having an excellent relationship with your primary care physician is very important, because they can often be the gatekeeper to referrals when needed. So for example, 2 weeks ago, I saw a patient who, similar story, every male in his family had a heart attack before the age of 40. And so his primary care doc was like, Dan, listen to this kid. What do we need to do to mitigate this? And it turns out that he had a genetic anomaly in how his blood flow worked, and we were able to pick that up on MRI. But you could see very easily how people would miss that. We didn't start doing cardiac MRI. Let's see, I finished in 2000. I've been doing this 24 years. And probably halfway into my career, so maybe about 12 or 15 years ago, we started doing cardiac MRIs. Without a cardiac MRI, that would have been missed. The point of that is, your point is well taken, which is that understanding your family history, we talked about risk factors and one of them being inheritance, heredity. Understanding what runs in your family is key in making sure that you're telling people so that they're aware, and also in the situation of the EMS worker, smart not to ignore symptoms. It's not normal to have a headache. It's not normal to fall out. It's not normal to get dizzy. It's not normal to get short of breath just walking up a small incline. But often, we as human beings have a vicious denial cycle. It's not just a river in Egypt. Denial is a real thing, and you would be surprised what we can condition ourselves to ignore, and we do. But thank you for the point. It's very well taken. Any other questions?
Hi, I'm Tom Dominy. Here at Dublin Nelson, we pride ourselves on providing the industry's highest quality products at the most competitive pricing. We are a full-service wholesaler specializing in plumbing, irrigation, and industrial products. With a staff that collectively offers more than 50 years of expertise, our team knows your industry, and we can answer your questions and help you get the parts and equipment you need. From mowing to Renee, we carry the plumbing, irrigation, and industrial products you need from the brands you trust. We also carry a great lineup of Milwaukee tools. At Dublin Nelson, our goal is the long-term success of your business. We achieve that goal with a simple commitment, doing things right, one customer at a time. If you have a question, or if you're looking for a hard-to-find part, give us a call. Our experts are ready to help. Order online, give us a call, or come by at 507 Airport Road in Dublin. We're committed to building long-term relationships with our customers by earning your business every day.
Hi, I'm Brandy, and I would like to invite you to experience our newly renovated mammography suite at the Fairview Park Hospital Breast Center. Our breast center has its own dedicated entrance with a relaxing boutique-like waiting area. You can make your appointment online anytime at fairviewparkhospital.com or by calling 478-274-3919. Most appointments take 30 minutes or less, and we will have your results back to your doctor within 24 hours.
All right, well, I'm going to turn the table over. I'm going to excuse myself then, guys, because I got to get to the hospital. You all take care, okay?
I'll just be real brief. I'm Kelly Cook, and I'm the director of the cardiac and pulmonary rehab program at our hospital. And so I do have some information up here for y'all when you're finished today if you wanted any information. But as he was saying, it is extremely important to, after you do have a heart procedure, a heart attack or anything like that, to change lifestyle modification and things like that are just really, really important. And so we do a lot of that in cardiac rehab. We teach a lot of lifestyle modification techniques. We teach proper exercise techniques. We monitor the patient very closely with EKG monitoring, blood pressure, blood sugar checks to make sure that everything looks good as they're exercising. So it is an important step. So, just something to remember if you or your family members or anything, have an event like that, cardiac or pulmonary side, to ask your doctor about, do I need to attend cardiac rehab? Would it be beneficial for me? So anyway, I just wanted to say that for a minute. And if there are any questions on that end of it, I can answer those. And then if not, I do have some information up here for you also.
Will you tell them just in general how it's an outpatient program and how they get connected with you after an event that they've had to go to the hospital for?
Okay, yes. So we are an outpatient program of the hospital. We're located in the building actually behind the hospital back there. And so if somebody did have an event and they were in the hospital, usually we get a referral out there for that the patient would be referred for cardiac rehab, and we will contact the patient. You can always, of course, ask your physician for a referral to cardiac rehab and talk to them while you're in the hospital, or talk to your doctor as you go for your follow-up appointment about cardiac rehab. A lot of your cardiologists will recommend it for you, and even some of your primary care doctors may recommend it, for you also. Mm-hmm.
Does every hospital have a cardiac rehab? So like if we go to Macon, they know to refer here to Fairview?
Right. So not all hospitals do. Cardiac rehabs are sadly kind of few and far between. Macon does have some. We do, Savannah, Vidalia. But yes, they should know though. They should know to refer. All cardiologists, it's kind of a continuum of care type procedure that they should, refer the patient for their closest cardiac rehab near them where they live. Yeah. All right.
You can always advocate for yourself that if you're from Dublin, if you happen to be in Macon seeing a doctor, that
Right.
hey, this is closer to me,
Yes, because we do have some doctors refer and say you can go to the cardiac rehab in Macon, and they're like, I live in Dublin, can I go? So yes, you can always say, I want to go somewhere closer.